Hello and welcome to another episode of Media MD. I'm Reuben Morehouse.
I'm Elliot and Reuben.
And each fortnight on Media MD, we bring each other a piece of media that the other person has somehow missed.
That's right, so it's your turn.
It is my turn. We're going back to the realm of TV for this one. Animated TV shows featuring children. But this is not a young adult TV show, to break the trend. This is probably the most explicit show or the explicit piece of media that any of us have brought to the table.
Okay.
And that is a TV show called The Boondocks.
I've never even heard of it.
Never heard of it. I feel like it's kind of a running theme that some of our things have titles that don't quite make sense. Do you want to hazard a guess at what this one's about?
I mean, people working in docks? I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll cut that part. No, you're wrong. It's basically a comedy about two African-American children from the hood and their grandfather, and their parents die and leave them and their grandfather a bunch of money. Their grandfather starts taking care of them, and he uses their money to move them to a well-off white neighborhood, and it's a fish out of water comedy about them.
So like animated Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah, kind of. Except there's not really a grounded in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, it's about one character moving to this and living with his well-off and rich and kind of snobby family, whereas in the Boondocks, the whole family is out of place, and so it's kind of their struggle to fit in. And one of the running themes of the show is something that I would compare to. Do you remember the old Chris Rock comedy routine, which is and this is a quote: "Black people versus niggers," with AZ at the end.
No,
are you familiar?
I haven't seen that. No.
So it's basically it's this old, quite famous comedy routine about how there are two types of African Americans: the kind of well-off kind of smart black people, and then the thugs, the ghetto. You know? And that's a running theme in this show. The creator Aaron McGruder was running this comic strip about these same characters. It was a newspaper comic. And that ran for about 10 years, and then it became so popular that they spun it off into a TV show.
Okay.
And all throughout he kind of satirizes African American culture, and tries to kind of elevate the culture a bit, which is interesting. I will mention that we are both white Australians.
Yeah.
So we are pretty disconnected from this as a kind of...
Well, I did watch Luke Cage last week, so a bit of an expert, actually.
Yeah. So we're obviously quite disconnected from black American culture, but that's not entirely what the show's about. I mean, you can still kind of get the message that a lot of the episodes are putting across, but it's still quite a funny show.
Okay.
And Aaron McGruder, the creator, was obviously very heavily inspired by his culture and also kung fu movies. So it is a weird blend between kind of Western African-American animation and comedy, and then also crazy martial arts fight scenes and stuff.
Okay.
So like the soundtrack is like a mix between like hip-hop and rap, and then like oriental kind of music. It gets pretty strange, but it's a very good show. It's a very fun show, and also quite a funny show.
Okay.
So to talk about kind of the message of the show, I want to talk about one or two episodes in particular. One of the most kind of political episodes of the show is about kind of this alternate history where Martin Luther King, instead of being shot and killed, he's shot and falls into a coma and then wakes up in the present day.
Okay.
And so the entire episode is about him trying to kind of get his kind of movement off the ground again.
Yeah.
And he just finds that African Americans now are just like, in this show, they're very, very stereotyped as kind of thuggy, apart from some specific characters. And so it's all about him trying to kind of revitalize this movement, while African Americans, the stereotyped African Americans in the show, are like saying, we've got it made, and then they just go off and get into gunfights and die, as opposed to, pursuing anything.
Okay.
And so it's obviously kind of stereotyped in the show, but you can kind of tell the points he's trying to make. And so that's kind of the running theme of the show.
All right.
So now that we've got that out of the way, let me talk about the characters. So there are three main characters in this kind of family. There's the two sons, the two boys, and their grandfather, right?
Okay.
So one of the sons, Huey, is kind of a... How do you describe him? He's kind of a radical. He's very radical. He he goes around and he attends protests and rallies and that kind of thing, and he also kind of knows kung fu, which comes in a lot, which is a bit weird, but that's kind of how the show is. So there's him, and he's kind of the brains of the show, and if there was a main character of the three, it would kind of be him, and we're kind of experiencing this all through his eyes, and he's kind of the outsider to this kind of thug culture that they live in. And so he's very much like the example of Martin Luther King. He's trying to elevate his culture and his community a bit. Okay. And then there's his brother Riley, who is in a lot of ways kind of the epitome of that thug culture. Yeah, okay. He runs around and he like goes around and he will commit some like minor crimes. He's like a 12-year-old kid, so he'll like steal hubcaps off a car or like steal someone's bike or something. But he also, I mean, because he's a fleshed out character, he also has kind of moments of heart throughout the series, but that's very much who he is.
Sure.
And then their grandfather, Robert, who was hinted at going through this kind of black protest era. He was like a Black Panther for a bit, and he was with Rosa Parks when she wouldn't give up her seat. And he was kind of at all these historical moments as kind of half a joke. Like the joke in one of the episodes.
It's just like one of those running jokes where it's just like whenever some big event comes up, he was there.
He was there, and he complains that Rosa Parks got all the credit while he also was sitting there. And it was like, there's a scene that plays out where he and Rosa Parks sit like on the bus, and someone's like, you can't sit there, you have to move. And Rosa Parks is like, no, I'm staying here. And he's like, yeah, what she said. and the headlines is like, Rosa Parks, woman doesn't sit at back of bus, and Grandpa Freeman's like, yeah, I was there as well. And he claims he doesn't get credit for any of these things. And he is kind of a joke character, but he's also kind of, he really wants to integrate into this kind of white culture.
Okay.
And one of the scenes in the first episode is him meeting with the kind of white rich businessman who runs their neighborhood, and trying to pacify him by offering him cheese and saying like, white men love cheese. And there's this scene where he's like, the guy's like, I own the bank that owns your house, so you have to suck up to me. And Robert's like, so would you like some cheese? And he's like, yes, I'd love some cheese. And so it's obviously very satirical of not just black culture, but white culture as well. And this whole kind of...
just built on stereotypes. And
this American dynamic, in a way that's obviously meant to convey a couple of points. And it's done very well, and it's quite a funny show.
Okay.
So that's what let me see if there's anything else I'd like to talk about. I'd like to talk about one other character called Uncle Ruckus, who is...
subtle name.
Uncle Ruckus, yeah. So he is black. He's one of the black characters on the show. And his whole thing about himself is that he's black, but he hates black people. And the way he internalizes this is he has a skin condition, which he often describes as the reverse of what Michael Jackson had, where he was born white and he became black throughout his life. And he uses a lot of racial slurs. He hates black people. The N-word comes up a lot in this show, but I'm not going to say it because we're both white Australians, so I feel like that's not our place. He's a very interesting character. And actually, the creator, Aaron Magruder, kickstarted a live-action movie about Uncle Ruckus, but that never got off the ground, unfortunately.
Okay. Bit ambitious, was it?
Yeah, it was ambitious. It made, I think, like 3/4 of its funding goal, but...
pretty good.
Yeah, but coming from an animated to a live action, I feel like there was some...
big jump.
There was a disconnect there as well between the characters. One more thing I want to talk about is this show has 4 seasons, and they kind of pulled a bit of a Walking Dead. The first 3 seasons were made with Aaron Magruder, and then season 4 he was axed. I'd say just pretend the show has 3 seasons. The 4th season is pretty,
Yeah. There's a lot of shows that's what I do when I recommend them to people. So, Fringe has 5 seasons, but only watch 4.
Exactly. This is the same thing. Like the 4th season, it carries over. I mean, it's the same characters and everything, but you can tell that the kind of heart and the bite of it is gone.
Sure.
So it doesn't really feel the same. So I guess that's all I really want to talk about with it. Since there's 3 seasons in air quotes of this show.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not expecting you to get through all 3, but I feel like this is the kind of thing where if you like it, you're going to get hooked onto it by the first or second episode. So we'll see how far you get. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so give it a shot. And we're back.
Oh yeah.
That was a bit weird. 2 weeks later. So?
Well, it's actually been closer to 3 weeks,
yes,
I think.
Yes.
So we got delayed a bit, and I'm sort of bringing that up because I think that really has reshapen what I'm going to be talking about.
Is reshapen a word?
It is now.
Okay.
So, I mean, well, so first off, just to set the scene, on top of what you said in the first thing, it's just the family of three guys, the grandpa and the two kids, and they moved out to the suburbs. And as you said, the whole thing's just sort of built on racial stereotyping, taking it all to extremes,
which I like. As
So,
a racist myself.
So I mean, what was interesting for me is I didn't enjoy season 1 at all.
Oh, interesting.
It took me about 2 weeks to get through season 1 just because I wasn't enjoying it. And so if we'd actually met up on schedule, I probably would have only given it less than 5. But then just right at the end of season 1 and then season 2, I don't know if the show changed that much or something just clicked in me, but I just got super addicted. Now I've watched all 4 seasons in the week that we added on.
In the first part of the episode, I touched on how season 4 was...
Yeah.
They pulled a Walking Dead or whatever you want to call it, where they dropped the show, the actual creator and vision behind the show. How did you feel season 4 stacked up to season 1?
Also, because you said you didn't like it as much. Yeah. And I sort of looked online and that seemed to be the general consensus. But I liked it. I probably not as much as 2 and 3, but I still liked it way more than season 1.
Fair enough.
It was noticeably different. Seasons 1 to 3 dealt with a lot of issues, but it almost always primarily came down to race relations in
racial
America.
relations.
That wasn't as much the theme in season 4. I noticed apart from that whole they were slaves again arc, which was obviously racial.
Yeah.
There were lots dealing with there was an episode where the grandpa got in a relationship with Siri.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
a lot of season 4 is just kind of gone from my brain.
So there were so the grandpa gets a phone with Siri in it and then ends up being in a relationship with Siri. And then the Siri starts stalking him and it gets really weird. But
enough.
That was just a plot line you wouldn't have gotten while the original creator,
Aaron McGruder.
While he was in charge.
Yeah.
That wasn't the sort of plot lines they were doing. When it was him, it was almost always
racially
very
based.
very tangential and everything, but there was always some sort of race in undertone,
and that really led to I think the best stories and moments. Those racial moments. I think my favorite one is, I don't know if I mentioned it in the first part of the episode, but there's a scene where the two boys, Hugh and Riley, and they're kind of friends-ish, who are Gin Rummy and something Junior, I've forgotten his name. Wansler Jr., who are these very white thug characters. They're going around trying to solve a crime, and they stop off at a gas station, and then Gin Rummy and Wansler Jr. rob the gas station, which is owned by these Middle Eastern people. And they have this weird shootout, and then at the end they kind of come out, and the gas station attendants are arrested because they're Middle Eastern, and the two guys come out as heroes for defeating the terrorists, and it's so bizarre.
Yeah, no, because they hold the gas station up, they're pointing guns at the workers, and then there's a police officer in the thing, and he just freaks out and sides with the white guys.
Yeah, because they're trying to convince him that the Middle Eastern guys have a gun.
And he's not holding anything. So I'm not holding anything, and they're he's got a gun, and the police officer's I think you have a gun.
It's very bizarre. But it's obviously, it's moments like that which really lead to the strongest parts of the show.
Yeah. And I mean, another strong part of the show for me was and again, I didn't like him at all in season 1, but by season 3 I was in love with Uncle Ruckus.
Yeah, Uncle Ruckus, of course.
Again,
Uncle
they talked about, you talked about the Kickstarter for the movie about Uncle Ruckus. I don't know if that would have been a good idea. I think there were 2 or 3 episodes which focused primarily on Ruckus, and one was called The Color Ruckus, and it was based on the color purple, which was just all sorts of offensive. That was pretty good. But that, I don't know if he could carry a whole movie.
Yeah, he's a character that's so offensive that he works in small parts.
Yeah,
as a side character,
but
he
essentially became a main, he's definitely a regular by the end of the series. I think he wasn't in it that much in season 1, but he always had at least 1 or 2 lines in every episode.
We should clarify again, Uncle Ruckus is the character that's black, but is very, very very racist towards.
Yeah, well, so he
African
thinks
Americans,
he's
blacks.
white, but he has like a skin condition which causes his skin to look dark.
Revitiligo.
That's
he calls
it,
yeah.
The opposite of what Michael Jackson had.
He says that multiple times. That's a pretty good joke.
And so I mean, he's just like
he's insane. He's an insane character.
But I also thought it's interesting, because he's constantly talking about how much he hates black people.
Yeah.
But then the only two people he ever hangs out with are the grandpa and Tom, the lawyer guy.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tom was another interesting. I think that was the good thing about the show is even though they wouldn't just stick to one stereotype of each race. So Tom was like the Urkel, the
Tom,
black guy.
He's like
who's
a lawyer
white guy.
he's married a white woman and has had, and he's
was
kind of rejecting his culture a little bit.
They're often making jokes because he was the whitest person in the show. He was whiter than the white people. In the show.
For sure. Yeah.
And so I liked that, and I thought Huey and Riley worked really well as a pair, to base the episodes around, because you could have one about Huey, and Huey was always very he thinks things through, and he's very philosophical and sort of calm about everything. But then if you just wanted to have something stupid happen, you could just throw Riley in for 5 seconds,
and Riley's just kind of
and Riley would just do the stupidest thing. Whatever, and you just accept him doing the dumb thing because, well, that is what Riley would do, sure.
Yeah, and these characters are kind of built up more than that. There are moments. There's the episode where Riley takes art classes and kind of has a bit of heart to it and kind of injects some heart into his character. So they're not just two-dimensional characters, but they really do work well as a kind of pair to base the show around.
Exactly. I mean, I thought I would have liked to have seen a couple of episodes. I felt like we never really saw much of the two of them interacting that much.
Yeah.
It was only ever because the episode would be about one of them doing shenanigans or something, and the other one would come in and comment and make funny jokes. But there was never something of the two of them going through stuff together.
Yeah. They're quite separate characters. Yeah. Even though they're brothers, they kind of do their own thing a lot.
Yeah, it would have been good to have an episode about the two of them bonding.
Yeah.
There were a few where they worked together, but in those episodes, the focus would be just as much on whatever was causing, whether it was the grandpa's girlfriends or something.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than them having an experience of their own.
It didn't feel as much like they were brothers as it would in other TV shows when you'd get episodes about them brotherly bonding, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. So, what was your favourite episode?
Ooh, I think it would have to be the one. I think it's right at the end of season 2, where they give Uncle Ruckus a reality show. And if nothing, just because
I think it's called the Uncle Ruckus reality show.
Probably, yeah. And as well, the whole thing's just shitting on the Black Entertainment Network for being the worst thing to happen.
That happens a fair amount. Yeah, you can really tell the creator Aaron Magruder hates BET.
Yeah, well, I was reading about it, and originally he was trying to get the show on that network, and they sort of turned it down because they wanted him to clean it up. So there was clearly a bit of a grudge.
A bit of a grudge there, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, another thing I noticed about this show is very quickly, even after a few episodes, even when I wasn't it that much, I could just instantly say, I was there's 4 people that I would recommend this to, and then a lot of other people who they won't enjoy, because it's very much a lot of the humor of the show is driven by let's be as offensive as possible and as politically incorrect as possible.
Yeah, but I would kind of compare it to South Park in that way, where it's being intentionally offensive, but it's still trying to make a point. It's not doing offensive just for the point of offensive.
And that was again, they had comparing it to South Park, I think Huey sort of played that role of Kyle, and he'd often have the monologue at the end of the episode where he'd sort of discuss the point or the lesson.
The lesson of the episode, yeah.
But I think my favorite ones were when you'd have Riley give speeches like that, and because he'd use very twisted logic to make his points, and it reminded me of this characters like that. It was something like Cartman would do, or there's a few other TV show characters similar where they he'd say something. Just offensive to back up his point. You're I know that's wrong,
but the point, the underlying message,
but it sounds right.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that.
And Riley is also good because whereas Huey he's kind of a stand-in for the audience in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And he'll be saying that's stupid because this is stupid because that. Riley will embrace the stupidity and kind of go with it, and then through that emphasize why everything is like the point that they're trying to make.
Actually, yeah, like so an example of like Riley, what I was talking about is I think the grandpa's dating a girl who is a prostitute.
Yes.
And so Huey sort of says it's wrong that the grandpa's sort of just paying this girl to be his girlfriend. And Riley was like, well, what's the difference? You're paying all hoes, right? And he was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, it's like if I have a normal girlfriend, I still got to buy her things. I still got to take her out to dinner and pay for that. And he's like, why don't I just give her cash and she can spend it on what she really wants? Like she can buy herself noodles and get way more meals out of it.
Yeah.
And, there's like an underlying logic to that statement.
Yeah.
That's like, there's so many more things wrong with it, but there is one little train of
like actual conscious logic in there. Yeah.
And you sort of you hear it and you're like, that's not 100% wrong, but it is.
So let's talk about the fight scenes.
Yeah. Well,
did you expect this TV show to have a lot of kind of martial arts kung fu actually?
I did because of what you sort of told me about going in, but I actually expected more, particularly in season 1 they were lacking.
Yeah, they kind of built into it.
They picked up later, and they got more ridiculous later, which I liked. I mean that whole art style, like clearly the faces were very anime, and the art style itself was quite anime.
Yeah.
But the way the characters' bodies were drawn reminded me a lot more of like 90s Western cartoons.
Yeah.
Just in the first episode, as I was watching the people walk around, I was thinking of like Captain Planet, Street Sharks. I'm probably getting more and more niche in these references, but it was reminding me. So it was like this weird mix of kind of anime style drawing with like Western influences as well in the bodies, and I kind of like that. And the animation really picked up in season 2 as well. Like there was a very noticeable difference. Season 1 was merely
probably had a lower budget.
It's clearly made on a budget. They were like weren't. I think the network was committed to spending that much money on this. Yeah. I get that. But and the movement in the fight scenes was very, very fluid. And then it would get suddenly very anime-y, where it'd just be like, wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where characters will just resolve their problems with fight scenes.
Yeah.
Which is very strange. So there's an episode where the family sneaks into a cinema, and Uncle Ruckus, who throughout the show has many, many, many different jobs.
Yeah, and that's like a running joke. Like I think
he just works everywhere.
At the start of season 2, he mentions he has 32 jobs, and then towards the end of season 2, he's like, I have 47 jobs. It's just
so he's
ever increasing.
He's working as an usher, and they've snuck in, and so there's a fight scene between. It's basically a kind of cat and mouse game, that episode of him trying to catch them and then trying to escape. And then at the very end, there's a fight scene between him and Huey.
Yeah.
And it's very strange. Each character in the show kind of has their own weird fighting style.
Yeah.
So Huey's like the kung fu master.
Yeah, and he does lots of flips and ninja jumps and all that.
Riley will have like guns and will throw chairs and shit at people.
Yeah, I would say as well. There's a few close-ups, and he's very much. It was like boxing style almost. Yeah,
exactly.
Like MMA.
MMA is it, but he also kind of will pull out weapons at times.
Yeah.
And then Grandpa Freeman will use his whip, his belt like a whip, and like grapple onto things and stuff.
Yeah, like Balrog style.
Yeah, it's very strange. But it makes for kind of interesting little breaks in the comedy to just throw in this random fight scene.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of like the fight scenes, and they were definitely, those were very much, I would have said, Eastern influenced.
For sure.
And then I guess the only other East and West, the music in the show alternates between having like gangster rap style music, hip-hop, and then it would go to like piano, like the actual background music soundtrack was like piano solos, like very like Miyazaki. Yeah,
it's very.
And so you get like this like still shot of the house, and it'd be playing this like beautiful piano solo, and then it would like just cut to someone's room where they're blasting gangster rap,
or it would cut to like Huey and Riley fighting.
Yeah.
Like cuts from serene house and music to like complete chaos and musical chaos, and.
But I mean, I guess in a way that sort of matches the whole show's based on extremes and bringing those extremes together, and so I guess that sort of makes sense. Yeah, that the music would do that as well.
And for all the Eastern influence the show has, there's only, I think, one episode where it kind of deals with that head on, which is the kickball episode.
With the Chinese people.
Yeah, come over. Where there's a kind of I think it's annual.
It's an annual kickball match between the Woodcrest guys in their sister city in China,
Yeah.
where another billionaire, because there's a billionaire who basically runs the town that they live in.
Wonsler, Wonsler.
And then there's another Chinese billionaire, and they just have this rivalry that's played out by the whole town, the whole of their two cities playing kickball.
Kickball, yeah. And so there's Huey is like the star of the Woodcrest, the American kickball team. I keep wanting to call it football. Yeah. And there's this small Asian girl who is kind of the star of the Chinese team, and they have this kind of weird rivalry thing. Where Huey was retired because he accidentally killed someone playing kickball too good. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, like, talking about some of those recurring characters, that was a big issue I had in season 1. I felt like it was designed for people who'd already read the comic strips or something, because they didn't really introduce a lot of the characters, or they do it in, like, a throw-off line, but, like, I feel like I'd almost enjoy it now, going back and watching season 1 now, because I feel like a lot of the jokes weren't landing, because I didn't understand who this character was.
Yeah.
And so, like Tom would come in and sort of make jokes, and I was just like, but, like, who is this guy? And then Huey, like, he'd be in one episode, and I just assumed he was, like, a one-off character. And then Huey would just sort of be talking to him as if they were close friends the next episode. And then, like, 2 episodes later, I found out they're neighbours. And it was just very much, like, it felt comic strippy, and just how...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Characters would come in and out, and I was like, I don't know who these people are, and how they link. Whereas then, in season 2, they had... it wasn't Gangstalicious, or who was the guy who moved across the road from them?
It was
like
Thugalicious or something.
Yeah. Like
Thugnificent. Yeah.
He, like, that was part of the turning point for me, is when they actually started introducing recurring characters, and, like, there was more continuity there. Whereas the other time it'd be like wait. Is this the same person who was in it like three episodes ago? And it's like, and why are they best friends now? Like, we didn't see any of these connections, so...
Yeah, I guess I've seen this show so many times that I have lost my initial, like, season 1 kind of viewing. But, yeah, that's good points. Okay, so...
So you want the number rating?
Yeah, give me the number.
I mean, I'll give it a number, but... It's almost kind of meaningless, because I think you're going to... With this, as I said before, this is kind of show you know exactly who you are or aren't going to give it to. Yeah. Like, I think people are either going to give this an 8 or higher, or, like, 2 and lower. Like, you know, if
they're into that style of comedy.
Yeah, exactly. If they enjoy, like, offensive comedy, they're going to love it. If they don't, they're going to hate it. Like,
if they don't like being offended, you won't like this show.
Exactly. So, like, I mean, I'm going to give it, like, a high, like, factoring in all 4 seasons...
a high 7?
No, I'd give it like an 8. Like, I really enjoyed it. But like going through each season, like 2 and 3 would be right up there with like 9.
Yeah, I definitely agree that 2 and 3 are stronger. I still would think that. I'm surprised you didn't like season 1 as much as you did.
No, I didn't enjoy it. I was just sort of watching each episode, and I was only getting through like 1 a day, and I'd just sort of sit there for half an hour, and I was like, I'd laugh maybe once.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah, I know. And then there was just some turning point, and I don't know if it was the show or if it was me, but then suddenly I was laughing at like every second thing that was said.
All right, well, I'd be interested to see if you go back to season 1, whether it clicks more for you or not.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see that as well, and then go back to season 2 and see if I still noticed an improvement. Yeah. Because maybe it was me, maybe it was the show.
There's a definite quality bump up
definitely.
For the budget, but... All right, thank you for listening to another episode of Media MD. Elliot unfortunately could not be here in the post role because he is a slacker. But I'm still here to tell you about all our great socials, like our Twitter, which is at MediaMDPodcast, and our website, which is MediaMDPodcast.com. And of course, to give you a little sneak peek of our next week's episode, which is we'll be talking about the web serial Worm. So try and read that. It's pretty long. It's about 1.5 million words. So see if you can get through that before next fortnight, and we'll see you then.